Welcome back to Scene. I'm your host, Diona Richards, and joining us today is Joy Kolin. Joy, welcome.
Hi, thank you, Diana.
It's
Nice to be here.
great to see you. So, Joy is the founder and CEO of Giving Joy, a nonprofit organization creating access to capital for women globally. And she does that through a series of micro grants. And so, Joy, we would love to know what brought along Giving Joy. How did you get started? Where did the mission start for you?
Well, my background, I won't give you my whole story, yeah? But basically, my background is international development. I've lived and worked overseas, and I've always had and I worked for nonprofits my whole career. I
Mhm.
always had a passion for doing something for people. And I worked in very large international organizations with very, very large projects. And, they were doing a lot of good, but I personally couldn't feel kind of that impact on the individual level. And so I was constantly thinking, what could I do that, could impact more individuals, especially women, because I grew up in a, um, with a very strong mother, and also I see the power of women every
Mhm,
day.
mhm.
And so I asked a lot of women, what do they need? Because there are a lot of nonprofits or NGOs out there, non-governmental organizations out there, and I didn't want to just create another one.
Right.
And I really did a lot of research, asking a lot of women in different countries, and they all said the same thing, that sometimes you just need a little bit of a boost or a stepping stone, a little bit of capital to move your idea forward,
Mhm,
or to take you to a better place, or to move something, more
mhm,
positive movement, um, along with a confidence boost too, that
mhm.
someone believed in you. And I was like, you know what, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not a rich person, I'm not Melinda Gates or anything. So I decided to start Giving Joy 5 years ago, providing one-time micro grants of $500, up to $500, to women entrepreneurs. So it's
Mhm.
either a woman who already has a business, wants to start a business, or a nonprofit. But the key thing is that it has to have impact beyond that $500.
Right.
And that's kind of what, oh, so I'll stop there.
No, no, I was just gonna let you keep going because that's so wonderful, especially when you're pouring into women, because we know that women, entrepreneurship is a multi-trillion-dollar business, right? And we know that women perform better when they're building businesses and even in the workplace. And so thank you so much for pouring into that needed space. And you mentioned a little bit about when you're issuing these grants, they have to go beyond that $500 impact. What does that look like?
Sure. So I was going to go into that, but I decided to stop. It's okay.
Thank you. That helps me
'Cause
keep my questions in
yes,
line.
yes. No, no, I have a tendency to just talk, so please stop me. Basically, it's what we call our theory of change, which means like if this, then that. It's kind of what we believe in, and it's called the multiplier effect. It's
Mhm,
really simple. It's basically how much impact can one grant do,
mhm,
and so and I'll explain. So a lot of times, so I get a lot of applications. Actually, we get close to 4,000 each
wow.
round, and we have 2 rounds a year. Yeah, it's almost 4,000 applications from this time 71 countries.
Wow.
So yeah, so if someone puts in an application that says I want to use the $500 to buy, let's say, a sewing machine, for
Mhm,
my business,
mhm.
that's fine, no problem. But how is that one sewing machine going to impact multiple women?
Right.
Okay. If you're buying it just for your business and you're going to benefit from it, great. I have no problem with that. But so are another 3,000 applicants are saying the same thing.
Right.
So, how are you going to take that one sewing machine and actually impact multiple people and families?
Mhm,
So you have to
mhm.
be a little bit more creative and innovative in how you're doing that. So you either use it for to train other women to do that, or you're doing some kind of other activity. I don't know. I'm leaving it to the people to decide. So
Right.
that's really the factor that goes into how we give the grant out. You have to actually demonstrate what is going to be the multiplier effect. So like recently we had winners who did podcasts and raised awareness for certain women issues or something like that. That podcast, so one podcast had 20,000 listeners.
Wow.
So that kind of has a ripple effect. You get me? So we have $500, but with the $500, you can do a lot to impact a lot of other people. You just have to think about it a little bit differently. So that's really what we're trying to get out, that even with small donations and a small micro grant, you can still do quite a lot.
Absolutely. And that's a great point, because I think a lot of times when we talk about grants, we're looking for these big numbers, right? 10,000 plus. And it's not often that you think about how something like $500 can be used to create a large impact. Even though the dollar amount seems small, the impact can be just as great. So that's a great point. Thank you so much for bringing that up. So when you're receiving these applications, are you and your team personally viewing them? Are they ran through some type of algorithm? You all comb through every application.
So we're a little low techy here, but I do think that probably other organizations have some kind of algorithm with SEO, like keywords and stuff like that. So the applicant, again, the money is not great, so I don't want to put people through hell and back just for this application. So the application is online. It's very simple. It's, I think, 10 questions. You can do it in multiple languages if you like, as long as I can translate it. But again, your answers need to be specific. Right. And yeah, we have a database, and we go through, we go through an initial, kind of combing through it, and you have to make sure that, they, people filled out the whole questionnaire. And then after that, yes, we go through it, line by line, and kind of are looking at, but some of them, to be very honest, some of them on the face of it, very quickly, that it's a non-starter, because either they were very vague, or they just said, one of the questions is, how are you going to use the $500? Please be specific and include an itemized list of what you're doing. Some people just say, it's going to expand my business, the 500. Right. So that's a non-starter, and we don't even continue to read those. Right. So there are about 80% of the applicants we get are kind of around that. And then the 20% we really go and then read more in depth. And sometimes we even sometimes, let's say, for verification purposes, someone didn't list that they have a website or any kind of social media platform. So we need to verify that you're real, or that you're actually going to use the money for something real. So sometimes we reach out to that person and ask for documentation or something like that, other verification forms for that. So it does take time. Now, we only do it twice a year. And I do have a number of people who volunteer to read the applications. And so we all use the same evaluation criteria to score them. And then eventually I take all of them and compile a short list. And then that short list goes to our board. Okay. And then the board are the ones who make the final decisions on who gets the grants.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about what that evaluation criteria looks like? How can someone present themselves as a standout applicant?
Sure. So the evaluation criteria are also in our frequently asked questions section of on the website, but nobody reads that. So I'm just letting people know you should read it, because you will understand much better what we're looking for. Right. And in general, for any application, please read what the donor wants. And we also have, contact information. So if something isn't clear, you can email us and we will clarify that. So just letting you know. So the evaluation criteria are basically like, how does this align to the Giving Joy mission? What is the actual impact? How creative and innovative is your idea? And how many people, what is the multiplier effect? How many people is it actually going to impact? And also the clarity of the application, that we actually understand what you're proposing and that we can clearly identify the impact of that vis-a-vis what you're put down there. Because sometimes people like have great ideas, but that then actually what they're proposing to do with the $500 doesn't align.
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of the main criteria. So we don't care. Again, I think that's kind of the beauty of it. You want the ideas to come from the applicants. We want we don't care what geography it comes from. Again, we've given grants in 16 countries now and
Wow.
6 states in the US. So it really doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. The field doesn't matter. Like it could be agriculture, education, health, economic development, you name it. It's more the matter of, again, of that idea and the impact.
Yeah, that's great. And you touched on something, and I just want to go back a little bit on the reading. I think that it's wonderful that you put that criteria in the questions and answers portion, but you did mention that people don't read that, and you're absolutely right. And I see that happening a lot on my platform when I post about grant opportunities, funding opportunities. It's, well, what's the minimum and what's the requirement? And you want to stop and say, hey, if you just visit the site, the funder has put all of that information in there. They are not sitting you out here blindly to just submit all of your company information and hopefully your name will get picked, but all of that information is listed typically on the funder's site. And so I do think that it's important that the audience knows to stop and read, to slow down, take your time, and really fully understand what it is that you are applying for. And do you find that when you're going through these applications that you can tell the people who would have gone through and read the fine print and kind of align their story with your company's mission as opposed
Yes,
to those who didn't?
absolutely. I can definitely tell when someone actually looked and did some research and like saw what our mission is, or looked at past applicants who past winners. So yes, I can definitely tell. Now sometimes people a little bit manipulate their business to kind of fit into what we're asking for, and you can also, just for your listeners, we can tell that.
Okay.
We can definitely tell if you're trying to put a square peg in a round hole. Because a lot of times people propose things that are not really aligned with our mission, but they kind of are trying to figure it out. So I appreciate the fact that they read, but not every grant is for you. And you also have to realize that too. But I definitely can tell when people are reading and when they are not. And also, we've made, we took the time to put in the FAQs, the frequently asked questions, in. We actually update them periodically based on the questions that we receive. So if I get a lot of questions that are about something, I can't remember right now exactly what it is, then I recently put in that we do not accept unsolicited proposals, because I constantly get unsolicited proposals via email. And the only way to actually be an applicant is through the website. So it's there very clearly. So that was just an example of like few months ago that I updated the website to be even more clear and explicit. So other donors do that too. We're updating our FAQs based on some of the questions that we're getting. So I guess clearly there's something not as clear as we thought. So I'm definitely listening to the questions and changing and updating based on that. But the basics are there. When I get like 10 emails a day in our info box about where can I apply for the grant, it's right there on the homepage.
Right there, guys.
It's right there. So, I can't make it bigger. I mean, I could, but that would be obnoxious, so it's right there. So just take a minute and like really look before you. I mean, I don't remember who wrote what and all of that, but I mean, it's not a good impression. Also, just one more thing. It's really not a good impression, and our application form is very simple. If you have typos, and I know English is not everybody's native language. But, take the time and, now with AI and stuff, you can look
Right.
at typos and stuff like that. Take the time, read what you wrote. See if it makes sense. See if it's a
Mm-hmm.
complete sentence. Like I
Mm-hmm.
get things that aren't even complete. Like it doesn't even have a noun or a verb in them or something. Like how
Right.
am I supposed to decipher what you're trying to say?
Right.
And I know not everybody's a writer, but just very simple sentences are fine.
Right.
But
Right.
just put it in the sentence.
Yeah. So try to be as clear, concise, and use your punctuation and just basic grammar skills in your application. Yeah, and I'm sure that that helps kind of make their application stand out more. Um, you
It's
also
just sorry,
no, go
Diona.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
It's just subconsciously, if you have to read the same sentence 3 or 4 times,
Mm-hmm.
you're not gonna like that person. And just subconsciously, even though their idea may be good, there may be something there, and you'll be like, maybe not. You
Right,
know.
right.
So
That's a good point.
just keep trying to make it as easy for the reader as possible, so that they're in a good mood, so
Mm-hmm.
that they're positive about you, and not
Right.
struggling to understand what you're trying to say.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you think that, and I don't know how many applications you see that kind of have these grammar errors, but do you think that that is because of the dollar amount? I don't want to assume, but do you think that if the dollar amount was $50,000, that people would take more time to stop and digest what they're applying for and sell their story a little better as opposed to kind of just rushing through it because it's only $500?
Yes and yes. Yes and no. I mean, yes, because it's not a lot of money. But sometimes people just put stuff together and they'll be like, "Oh, let's see," or
Right.
whatever, and they're in a hurry and they just like, "Oh, let's just do it." And even for larger dollar amounts, I think some people just like, "Oh, whatever, it doesn't matter."
Right.
That stuff doesn't matter, but it does. It does. So, I mean, yeah, well, that's why I think our application form is very simple and very short, because it is $500. I'm not going to put you through,
Hmm.
seven gates of hell or whatever, for $500. And believe me, as someone who's also on the other side who writes grants, I understand kind of the hoops you have to jump through. But if you are taking the time to fill it out, do it
Right.
properly. And I think that's for any grant, not just ours, just any grant. Put your
Yeah.
best foot forward, period.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. Now, you mentioned a little bit about how sometimes people will try to game the system and present an opportunity that just very clearly is not a good fit. Can you give us an example of what you've seen that may not align with what you all are, your mission?
Well, so for example, someone, let's say, has a hair salon, which is
Mhm.
totally legit. And they're proposing to do some kind of training on maybe like women's empowerment or something like that, which is totally great. But then what they put in that they're going to use the $500 for is all equipment for the hair salon.
Okay.
So how does that jive? Like,
Right.
so ultimately, to me, it means like you're just telling me what I want to hear,
Right.
but ultimately you're going to use this for something else.
Right.
So
So
that's
now
just an example.
how could they flip that if they came back and said, well, we need to purchase more equipment, but we're purchasing more equipment because we want to be able to provide free hair, services to maybe homeless women in our community,
Well, there you go.
or to women who are starting new jobs, giving them free hair services for their first day of work. Is that something that would present as a better opportunity?
Absolutely. Like we had an organization. Well, their mission is they're called. Sorry, I'm blanking on them. Anyway, there's an organization in what they happen to be West African, but what they believe, they have this program called Heal for Hair, and they
Okay.
train hairdressers to actually identify first signs of trauma and mental health
Mm.
issues, and then link their clients to therapists.
Wow.
And that's a great idea.
Wow.
So
That's
simple.
phenomenal.
such a great idea. So so their proposal didn't involve actually hair equipment, but he could have, easily. So I'm just saying that, like, again, you can definitely, use it for hair, whatever, all that stuff. But the question is, what do you do with it? So
Right.
we recently had an organization that we're going to actually announce the winner next week, in Uganda, that they use used tires, and train women to use the used tires to make ottomans, shoes, this, that, and the other.
Wow.
So, part of their proposal was, the used tires, to buy some, or to collect them, or have wheelbarrows for the used tires, and like materials to make things for that. So I can understand that, yes, they're using the grant to buy things, but it's for a larger purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's not just all about, because also a lot of times it's just very interesting how cyclical it is. Like, a lot of times I just have all these applications that say we want to do training. Okay, that's fine, but training for what? And what
Right.
is the impact? And how are you going to sustain that? You train 12 women on something, and then what? What are they going to
Right.
do with that? If they don't have more capital to do anything with the
Mm-hmm.
training, that you help them, like, I don't know, raise pigs or what, I don't care. Then it's useless.
Right.
So you have to think of kind of the longer term, the sustainability of that. So it's not just like, yes, it's a one-time grant, but again, part of the creative part is, how do you sustain that impact? How is it trickled down to so many others?
Right.
And that's really kind of the key, what we're looking for. And most people are just thinking of the here and now. I need to buy I don't know, shelving.
Something. Right.
And okay, great. And the question, but I don't have, like, just looking as a donor, I don't have infinite amounts of money to give everybody shelving. So
Right.
what sets you apart, that I will give you the money for your shelving versus somebody else?
Right. Right.
And I
Yeah.
think that goes for any donor.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great point. I believe that hopefully the questions allow people to think deeper, right? Because sometimes when you're filling out these applications, especially if you're on your 50th grant application
Yep.
and you've been rejected 49 times and you're just trying to rush through them, but then stepping back and realizing that maybe I need to take a step deep, think deeper on what it is that I'm presenting. But if you don't receive feedback on why you've been rejected 49 times, that may be difficult. So, do you recommend that people reach out to the funders to find out, hey, why didn't you all accept my application?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's no, I mean, I almost, there was only one person who asked for feedback as to why they didn't win the grant.
Wow.
The other emails that I get are, did I win it or not?
Right.
And not asking, why did I, even when I tell them, no, you didn't win, because unfortunately, we can't go back to everybody. Basically, we
Mhm.
just tell them, if you weren't shortlisted, if we didn't notify you that you're shortlisted or awarded, then consider it that you didn't win. Sorry. So yes, I highly recommend, that you always ask for feedback from the donor. Now, the donor doesn't have to give it to you,
Mhm.
right? They're not obligated to do it, but if they do, I think it's very valuable to do that. So I recommend. And if someone does, now I'm going to ask people, now I'm going to have to write more emails, but I do, if people do apply, and they don't receive the grant, and they want to know why, I am more than happy to explain to them why they didn't receive the grant. Many donors just don't have the time, or they're not
Mhm.
interested, or again, the volumes that they get are, like, significant. But it never hurts to ask. Again, I think, just in life in general, it never hurts to ask. Just
Right.
ask. You may be surprised by the answer. It may be something completely different than what you thought.
That's okay. Yeah, and I think that's great to know. And I can honestly say I don't think I've ever really heard a funder say that to, reach out to us and ask for feedback. And I do think that it's great to know that that is a possibility. Even if they don't respond, at least you put yourself out there to try to get an understanding of why my application was rejected or why my applications continue to be rejected.
So,
So
Diona, sorry.
go ahead.
One thing, there may be funders that specifically say, do not contact us and ask
Right.
us why you did. And that's totally legit, and you should respect that. But if they don't actually say that, then it doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Just shoot your shot, right? What do they
Yeah,
say? You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So
exactly.
that's actually really good, helpful information. So the grants that you issue, are they for established businesses? Do you have to be registered? Are you give grants for like the idea phase all the way through the we're up and running established business phase?
Yes. So, ideas phase, yes. The thing is, it's a little harder for me to verify that you are in existence and that you'll actually use the grant for your idea, right? That's a little harder. I mean, if you're already an entity, either for a nonprofit, then I know that's who
Right.
you are. If it is an idea, we do welcome ideas. I do think that necessitates a little bit more digging and verification on our part that you are the person you say you are,
Mm-hmm.
and that actually, some people I've asked, for example, do you have a business plan already, or did you
Right.
develop something else, or did you already apply for a license for this thing? Have you
Mm-hmm.
shown any other initiative that this is an idea you wanted to move forward with, or just for verification purposes.
Right.
Now, some people say, no, my whole idea is from this $500. I'm like, okay, but I still need to have some kind of assurances that indeed that's what you're going to do.
Right. Right. That's great. That's helpful. That makes sense because I do get a lot of questions around, well, what about us who are just starting? What about those of us who don't have the money to do the registration, but we do have an idea that we think will take us to the next level and affect our community. Um, and so do you all offer along with this grant award, is there any type of mentorship that goes along with this, and can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah. So for every awardee, I actually contact them individually, one on one, and we have a conversation. We get to know each other, and also part of it is kind of having me, if they want, help them. I mean, I have 20 years of experience grant writing and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
I do offer my services for reviewing grants, or if they need some advice or something, if they're developing something that's beyond the grant. And so I have maintained relationships with some of the previous awardees who would contact me afterwards and be like, hey, could you
That's
help me
great.
with this? I need. And also, what I'm trying to do, although it's a little harder, trying to create a community of past Giving Joy winners
Okay.
so that they can talk to each other. We're going to do something on WhatsApp, just to kind of connect them and
Hmm.
have them just kind of more organically
Hmm.
talk to each other. It has been a little bit difficult. Initially, I was actually twinning like a previous grantee to a new one so they can learn from each other, like especially if they were from the same country or region, but that really didn't work out very well.
Okay.
So I kind of dropped that. So also what we're thinking now, again, this is all evolving, and I
Hmm.
think one of the things that people don't understand, that also, like, um foundations evolve too in our
Right.
thinking. I, as a
Absolutely.
donor, am evolving all the time based on what I'm seeing from the applications.
Hmm.
So, and I think that's really, you know, a good foundation needs to do, looking again at the needs, or things. We recently added a new board member who does financial coaching,
Oh,
so we're
great.
thinking of maybe, she can provide some mentorship also to some of the grantees. it's just not, we're not clear how exactly to do that, but we're open to ideas. So if you guys have ideas, let me know. I'm always open for ideas. I don't have all the solutions by far. I think from when I started giving joy to today, it really it's been a journey. In terms of, again, what I was focusing on initially, the applications we got, the application process. So again, I'm learning all the time. I'm trying to make it easier and streamlined and get better applications myself. The fundraising is also a completely different issue that we won't talk about right now, which is, something that, again, I'm trying all the time, doing different things. So I'm just saying that also foundations evolve too. And so we can learn also from the applicants as well.
Yeah. And that's great. I'm happy that you brought that up because I wanted to talk to you about, clearly you are not afraid of pivoting and transitioning because the organization started in the US, if I'm correct, right? And now you're a global conglomerate. How did you start here and now you're helping women across the world? How did you get to that point?
So conglomerate is a huge exaggeration, Diona. That's why I was laughing.
You're on your way.
I mean, it's basically a one-woman show here with some interns and a board. But well, the intention was, I think, well, sorry, let me start again. The intention was always to not limit the geography. I mean, women are women. Women have needs, and $500 does go farther in Kenya than it does in the U.S. But I think it's just about how you look at it and what you do with it.
Right.
So I acknowledge that completely, that in the US, it's what do you do with 500 versus in Kenya, which is more, but again, I think it's more about how creative and innovative you are.
Right.
We are a virtual organization. We never had like physical presence anywhere. I mean, except for registration purposes in the US.
Right.
And like we never really had like physical events in places or other things like that. So it has always been virtual, and with that in mind. So I think initially the applications that we received were more from Massachusetts, where I'm physically from, just because kind of that's where it started. But pretty quickly through social media, we started getting applications from different countries. So I think that's really, and we still, I mean, we just awarded a grant in Argentina and Liberia and Nepal, 3 countries that we haven't had applicants from. So, I'm always amazed how, and we don't do any advertising or anything. It's just very organic, kind of how it kind of goes out and everything. So I'm always amazed how the word gets out. So it wasn't, I mean, the intention was always not to be limited by geography, Diona, and by being virtual, and and especially after COVID, it really doesn't matter.
Right.
That anybody can access this. So I think that's why I don't think we are a conglomerate. But I do feel like, it does make me very happy when we're able to give out grants in other countries that we haven't been at before, especially like, for example, Argentina, Spanish, they're doing podcasts on obstetric care, and I can't remember, anyway, with teenagers. Sorry, I'm not more intelligent about exactly what they're giving the grant about, but they're doing podcasts in Spanish that have life like in the whole Spanish speaking world, for example, or so it's those kind of things that really excite me. But also things can be super local, but they can be super global at the same time, and I think that's really one of the things that I'm noticing with technology that we're able to do.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think it's great that we've stepped into this virtual world, because it does allow you to have a greater reach, right? You don't have to stay local, you don't even have to stay national, and so that's wonderful. You sound like a woman who wears many hats. You work, you're a grant writer, you're running your organization. How are you? Tell us, how are you managing it all? How are you waking up every day doing everything that you need to do and still finding time to be Joy?
I don't. I mean, I don't find time. I think you need to prioritize. I mean, to be
Yeah.
honest, I think you need to prioritize and I'll give you an example, Diana. Just today, like 20 minutes went before we started. My friend said, "Oh, are you going to this thing on philanthropy in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which is where
Mhm.
I live?" And I didn't even know about it. And I'm like, "Probably not." And and she said, "Oh, you should really go. You're missing out and all that." And I was like, "Okay, I cannot like feel bad about missing on things because you'll never be able to do things." And I told her, "You know what? I'm not going to go to this thing. Is it going to be the end of the world? Probably not." So, I just have to put it in. I mean, we
Mhm.
can't do everything. There's no
Right,
way. I mean,
right.
it's just unrealistic. And I know that personally, I still have a day job. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm
Right.
doing Giving Joy is my like passion project basically, which um you have to and I feel sometimes bad that I'm not doing more for Giving Joy. But then I'm like, no, I can't feel bad because I'm doing a lot for women already.
Right.
So
Right.
you have to be we have to I know everybody's said this already, but you really have to be good to yourself. I mean,
Uh-huh.
it's just like don't beat yourself up. My husband keeps on saying, "Look, you created a whole organization. You gave out 61 grants. Like just be proud of
Wow.
that. Don't
Mhm.
don't be don't be sad that you didn't give out 100. Be proud of the fact that you gave out 61." And he's
Right.
right. And so I think we need to just give ourselves a lot more credit for what we've done versus what we have not done. And we won't be able to do everything ever,
Yeah.
and it'll kill us. And frankly, we should try and enjoy it at the same time. I'm
Yeah.
doing this out of love, not to kill myself. If I
Right.
feel like this is killing me, I won't do it anymore.
Right.
And I
Right.
think for everybody, I know people sometimes don't have a choice. Obviously, you have to work and stuff, but don't kill yourself in the process. You only have one life.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I have to say your honesty is very refreshing. It's very rare when you ask someone, how are you doing it all? How are you managing it all? For them to come out and say, I'm not managing it all. I recognize my priorities and whatever the priorities are, that's what gets my attention. And
Well, they're
so,
hypocrites then. I mean, it's
yeah,
not real. It's not
right.
real.
No, you're absolutely right. You're right. And people ask me that, how are you managing being a single mom and running a business? And I tell them the reality of it is I help. I afford help, right? I hire a nanny. I hire someone to come clean up once a month because you simply cannot do it all. You can't. And that's the reality of being an entrepreneur. That's the reality of being a living, breathing person, especially when you're building. So thank you. I appreciate that honesty so much. Joy, tell the people where they can find you, where they can find the organization, how they can apply for the grants. We want to hear it.
Sure. Diana. Yes. So our website is givingjoygrants.org. And on social media, it's Giving Joy Grants. And that's where you can find all the information about us. The application form is there, ways to donate to us, which we very much appreciate because all these grants are possible through donations of individuals
Mm-hmm.
like you, like regular people. What else did you ask me?
And social medias.
Sorry.
No, you're
So the
fine.
social media is Giving Joy Grants.
Okay, great,
Yeah.
great. Yes, so visit the website, apply for the grant, give to the organization so that we can keep furthering the mission and helping women get access to capital globally because women change the world. Joy, it has been a wonderful opportunity to speak with you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've learned a lot and it's just really been great to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. It was great and appreciate it. And I hope the people who are listening, seeing this also, it wasn't too painful. So thank you.
No, we had fun. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.